Welcome back to the Talkin Niners podcast, part of the Blue Wire Hustle Network. I am your host, Kobe Ransom. Joining me, as per usual, Niner Wire Sam. And Sam, we know who it is now. It's been months and months of talking, and now we know who it is.
All the stress finally gone, man. I mean, I'm hyped about this pick. We're obviously going to talk about this a lot. It's Trey Day, as we were just saying. Here to talk about Trey Lance. He's the quarterback for the future. That's really all I got to say, man. I'm hyped about this pick. Sigh of relief about all that stress gone. Now we can just live in peace and quiet for a bit.
Yeah, man. This long, like I realized, a couple weeks ago, it's like, hey, we've been talking about quarterbacks for 8 months straight since September. We've been discussing this for so long, and now we have the answer. And for those, I put out a poll about a couple of days ago, since the NFL, news cycle is going to be super dry now because the only thing coming up that we really may care about a little bit is the NFL schedule. So, we're spreading this out, the draft, so we're going to it's a big Trey day today. We're going to talk all Trey. And then next week's episode, we will get into the rest of the picks. So we have time to kind of watch the film, get some thoughts out, and then we'll be more prepared to give you guys some good information. So with that being said, we're going to start off from, we had our predictions last episode. I went with Justin Fields. I was incorrect. You went with Trey Lance. You were correct. I'll start off with just the emotions when the pick went through. I know some people wanted to watch it organically and just had their phone set down somewhere. I know you said you weren't even watching the draft.
I couldn't even watch it, so I had to find out from someone else.
Yeah,
and
but
I was in a setting where I couldn't really react at all, so I was just like, okay, cool. And then once I was in the setting where I could react, I was just soaking it in a little bit. And yeah, by the way, Finn's Maniacs, shout out to them. They had me on their stream on Saturday. Make sure to check them out for more. I had a draft reaction on there to the Elijah Mitchell pick if you want to see an actual draft reaction from me. But anyways, back to Trey Lance. I mean, just soaking it all in. I was hyped about that. He was my quarterback 3 throughout this entire process. I liked him over Justin Fields as a player. Scheme fit, I do think Justin Fields would have been better, but I completely understand why they went Trey Lance. And this was my prediction because I said last week, you swung for the fences once. Why do you stop there? You got to keep swinging it all the way, follow through, go for the grand slam. And that's what they did with Trey Lance. They went for it all with their new quarterback. And yeah, he might be a bit raw, but I do think he's in a system, as I said last week, with a stellar O-line that was also bolstered in the draft. You have a receiving core with Deebo Samuel and Brandon Ayuk. You have one of the best tight ends in football. You have a running back core that just gained a lot of depth to that and a lot of good players to that. And you have Jimmy Garoppolo, who could be one of the best bridge quarterbacks in the league at this point right now. So you're looking at a phenomenal scenario, and we'll talk about when he's going to start. But overall, I'm glad, first of all, Trey Lance, I'm glad that it's him. I'm glad that it's not Mac Jones, and all the rumors are gone about Mac Jones. That was really the only reason why I was stressed about this pick, because if it was Mac Jones, we would be here just ranting, yelling, screaming, doing all of that. So I'm glad
I did all that. I was like, hey guys, listen, it's who Shanahan wanted. It's what can we do? That's what I would have said. But overall, it wasn't Mac Jones. And for people, I know people wanted to watch it organically. Some are just watching the TV and it's like seeing this. They wanted to hear with the third pick in the 2000, the host bill. I was not. I was the opposite. I was on my phone. I know NFL Update and Ian Rappaport and Adam Schefter all kind of
draft diamonds
before it comes out. I was just refreshing the whole time. I was like, I need to know. And then I saw Trey Lance, and because I was a big Justin Fields guy, at first I was like, man, it's not Fields. Because number one, Fields was my prediction. It was a guy I was, banging on the table for weeks and months and felt like years. But that was number one. And number two, I lost money. So I was a little upset.
I lost money too, but you know what? It's fine. I lost a bit more money than I hoped, but at the end of the day, it is what it is.
So yeah, just for that part, I was a little upset. But then after those 10 seconds of me just damn, I lost money. I was like, you know what? It's not Mac, and I like Trey a lot too. So, we'll get into, the whole Trey evaluation, what we think of him as a player later. But just overall for the emotion of the pick, it was it was a huge sigh of relief. And I was doing the draft show, so I kind of had to get my thoughts together, really quickly. to talk on the 49ers Gold Mine Draft Show. But I know everyone was just so relieved that it wasn't Mac Jones. And, credit to everyone who, firmly held their ground. And I said this, like the day after, we were like, hey, credit to everyone who was out there, just even though the media, who was supposed to be the most reliable news source for your information, we were like, no, there's no way it's Mac. There's no way it's Mac. Kyle Shanahan has said numerous times, like, he was into Josh Allen. He had interest in him. We saw him in numerous press conferences say his evaluation for quarterbacks has changed. He's saying, these athletes can play the quarterback position much better than they used to be able to. And then, the press conference back in March, he was like, if you're drawing up the biggest, fastest, strongest, and best quarterback in the pocket. And then the one, the week of the draft on Monday, he's saying, like, you want a Lamar Jackson, or a Drew Brees with Lamar Jackson, like, ability. So it never felt like, just from Shanahan's mouth himself, without even doing all the expert digging, without doing all the extra, from his mouth himself, it never felt like it was going to be Mac Jones. And just to see the pick not be Mac Jones, and see the local, media and some of the 49ers content creators who have been saying it would be Justin Fields or Trey Lance from, the get-go, it felt like a small victory for us versus, the media in that regard. So, big W for us. And, I'm sure the main reaction from the pick was just like, thank God it's not Mac.
Yeah. And I mean, I think, again, it's not that I don't like Mac Jones, but Mac Jones at 3, no way. Trey Lance and Justin Fields are better quarterbacks, and they took the right quarterback in Trey Lance. And credit to the Patriots for taking Mac Jones. I know he got a lot of hate throughout this process, but that's a good pick by the New England Patriots. But we're here to talk about Trey Lance. And Trey Lance was the best quarterback available, in my opinion. And we took him. It's that simple. We got the best player available that we wanted. Kyle Shanahan believes that. I believe that. And I think people who are on the Justin Fields train are probably starting to think that Trey Lance is the better player than Justin Fields, because their coach, Kyle Shanahan, believes in Trey Lance more than he does with Justin Fields.
Not everybody.
Not everyone.
People out there who are like, man, why didn't they take Justin Fields? And I'm a big Fields guy too, but hey,
I mean, I'm also
the Panthers passed on him. The Panthers passed on him. They basically chose Sam Darnold over Justin Fields when there was reports that they love Justin Fields.
I think the Broncos passing on him is now worse. Drew Lock.
Does that mean that they are very? We know that they're in the running for Aaron Rodgers. Is that thing close to being done? Maybe is that why they felt like they need to pick Justin Fields there, because they felt like there's a good chance they're getting Aaron Rodgers, maybe. But then it took for the Bears to trade up to 11 for him to get taken. Like, and then it's funny because people are like, well, from that standpoint, the Niners could have traded up a lot less, or give up a lot less, and got Justin Fields instead, who many believe, is just as good of a prospect, if not better. But my argument to that is Kyle had a guy he identified that he loved, and we'll get into the presser they had afterwards from the first round. But we knew that Trey Lance was the guy that Kyle loved, obviously, because that's who they picked. And, whatever it takes to get a guy that you love, especially at the quarterback position, where you have to get a guy you truly believe in, because it's the hardest position to play. And then really, like, if you get quarterback wrong, it doesn't matter what else you do with the rest of your roster. Like, you got to get quarterback right. And, if Kyle had a guy, especially of his, as masterful of a play caller as he is, if he has a guy that he feels like can really, do the things that he wants his quarterback to do, whatever it's going to cost will probably be worth it.
Yeah, for sure. And the only reason I was saying why people might think that Trey Lance is better than Justin Fields, this is coming from me. And I was saying, I mean, throughout the beginning of the offseason especially, I was saying if Kyle Shanahan trusts Jimmy Garoppolo, then I want Jimmy Garoppolo to be my starting quarterback. But he doesn't, and therefore I don't. And I think that's just why I was saying a lot of people might be swayed by Kyle Shanahan's opinion on Trey Lance, especially if you're a 49er fan. I think that could very much happen. But you know what? The draft's over. I think we're going to have to see who's the better quarterback, and we're all rooting for Trey Lance to be that better quarterback, even if we were higher on Justin Fields at some points.
Yeah, I mean, at this point now, I mean, Trey Lance is a Niner. So that's the guy you're going to root for. That's the guy you're going to hope. And obviously, whoever went to San Francisco is going to be the best landing spot. So Trey Lance got the best landing spot. And, just for that, I mean, as far as, how the career start, he's off, he may be off to a better start than anyone else. Better than Lawrence, better than Wilson, better than Fields, and better than Mac Jones. So moving on to the presser that Kyle and John had after the first round. Basically, what they said was, and it kind of felt good to most people who were saying it was never Mac Jones, is that from the get-go it was Trey Lance. Kyle said back in January, and he was on the Rich Eisen show today, and he was saying he was out in Cabo at his beach house, and that's when he was really grinding the quarterback tape, and like Trey Lance was the first guy who caught his eye. He was like, okay, hey John, watch this kid. And just hearing that, and mixing that with so many people saying it was never going to be Mac, and then reports that it was always going to be Mac, it was just like a confirmation. It's like, Kyle just, and as he said, like, the storyline kind of built itself, and they just kind of let it play out. Or like, yeah, it was never, it was never going to be Mac Jones, but we weren't going to work to stop that rumor. And so, it's just confirmation that, hey, Mac Jones was never the guy. It was essentially always going to be Trey Lance.
Yeah, also always Trey Lance or bust. And this also just, I mean, we said in the past, and this is going to continue on. This is going to be a common theme with this regime in San Francisco, where it's just going to be all silent, radio silence whenever you think the Niners are going to make a big move. They're not going to talk about anything. I was kind of surprised. I thought they might tell like one or two coaches about the move. They didn't tell anyone about the move until they were on the phone, which was very surprising and honestly a very risky move. But it also goes to show the trust that Jed York and the rest of the coaches have in these two men, because that is important to a team. Jed York, obviously, he had 3 coaches in 3 years. That just shows a lack of trust with your head coach. That shows maybe you're getting your ego right away. But now you're here with a lot of trust in these head coaches. And I think that's what you need with Jed York and with this entire coaching staff. And it just goes to show what John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan have done to this 49ers team. It's just absolutely stunning. It's just crazy to think that a few years ago we were the laughing stock of the NFL. And now here we are with one of the most respected front offices and coaches in football.
And yeah, and it was just, it's funny because Justin Fields' name never really came up with them. They never really got, asked the question, and they never really mentioned that he was really in the running, which is, I guess speaks more to the fact that Trey Lance was the guy that Kyle wanted, the entire time. But I find that interesting how, they did their due diligence. Like they said, they were going, since they didn't have to hide, they were going to be, thorough with the entire process. But, it didn't seem like Justin Fields is really the guy that Kyle really wanted. So, and I think that's another, like, just that should tell you how Kyle feels about Trey Lance, that, he saw Trey Lance and Justin Fields is kind of like, no, yeah, Trey is my guy. This is who I'm going to want. And that's essentially what he was saying in the press conference. Like, he just fell in love with him. And also just giving up, you don't give up 3 first-rounders unless you absolutely love the guy. Right. Or it was 2 first-rounders in the third, but I like to say 3 because they took I would say they used 4 picks on him, because you trade away the 2 first for the next 2 years, the third for next year, and then you use pick number 3 on him. So basically you use 4 picks on one person.
This is the biggest move in franchise history. This could possibly be the biggest move of the decade. This could possibly be one of the biggest moves of the century. People are going to look back on this move and say either, what were the 49ers thinking? Or, man, Kyle Shanahan and John Lynch are pure geniuses. Put John Lynch in the Hall of Fame again and put Kyle Shanahan in the Hall of Fame for everything he did. That's what this move is going to be. This is a NFL-defining move, a generational move that you're not going to see that often. So you had to be in love with one of the guys. And I always had a feeling it was someone from the get-go. I thought Justin Fields the week leading up to the draft. I thought, you know what, this is probably Trey Lance. But they always had to have that guy in mind. If it was Mac Jones, they must have done some really deep dive into him before the trade. But obviously it's Trey Lance, and that's what we're here to talk about. So overall, it's just going to be crazy to look back. I'm going to be watching this podcast or live stream wherever I am, like 5 years back, and thinking to myself, man, this move was just absolutely crazy. It's going to be crazy to just look back on this.
Yeah, this is a new face of the franchise. This is the guy, if it all pans out, this is going to be the guy we're watching for the next 10, 15 years. This is going to be, hopefully, the Niners quarterback for the next generation, like just the next decade and a half. This is the guy who's going to lead this franchise to hopefully multiple Super Bowl titles, and this is the guy that Kyle believes in. And I want to go to a question because this is not a question, but this answer that Kyle brought up when they were asking about, just the fact that Trey Lance had, the least amount of film. And it's funny because, in the FCS, the way their playoffs work, they don't do like it's not a bowl season. I think it's like a whole like playoff bracket that they do. So Trey Lance actually had 17 games of film, which was, like we said, and it was something I came around to towards the end, which is why I started to kind of back off of the, Trey Lance is a developmental, project quarterback. It was like, hey, it may not be a whole lot of throws because there were a lot of design runs, but it's still 17 games. And 17 games is how many games, Mac played, it's how many games that Burrow played. It's just the film. I mean, it wasn't a whole lot of throws because he was such a good runner as well. That's how they used him. But, there was still a lot. There was enough there. There's enough to watch. And Kyle said he had like 160 pluses, when he was watching Trey Lance. And he said there was some, that he didn't count because they were stuff we already seen. So, I mean, Kyle loved a lot of what he's seen from Trey Lance. And if Kyle feels that strongly, a guy of Kyle's mind, feeling that strongly about, not only Trey Lance's ability, but his smarts, his ability to pick up an offense and to, go through progressions and everything he did in NDSU. I mean, that to me, that's what gets me super excited that Kyle is so excited about his quarterback, and
exactly. I
Kyle
think
finally has his guy.
You need that. And also kind of with Kyle's quarterback, can you bring up Diego Martinez's comment real quick? I'm just gonna quickly say I don't think it's an Aaron Rodgers and Jordan Love situation because for the sole reason that the 49ers don't trust Jimmy Garoppolo. Meanwhile, the Packers are still all in on Aaron Rodgers. They don't want to trade him at all.
First of all, Jimmy Garoppolo is not Aaron Rodgers. That's number one.
That too. But yeah, I also had a question for you. This is a lot. Someone asked this in my mailbag, and I'm going to answer this on Thursday on my channel. But for you, Kobe, do you think that what happens if Jimmy Garoppolo plays a really good year, plays out of his mind? What do you think the 49ers do?
They'll still trade him. And I think all that would do would help Garoppolo. The Niners made up their mind. That's why they trade up in the first place. I mean, they got their guy now. It's going to be Trey. I mean, the clock is ticking on Garoppolo. So, I mean, if he plays this entire year and plays well, he's just building his value for when he gets traded next year. So it will be either like a second or a first, if he plays really well. But regardless of how he plays this season, I think he gets traded at the end. If he doesn't get traded before then.
Yeah, I'm definitely with you on that. I think the only reason I asked that was because you have that Aaron Rodgers, Jordan Love situation that Diego brought up. And Jordan Love, again, another guy who was a very raw prospect. He's going to be in year 2 of development. And Trey Lance, yeah, he played 17 games, which is still a decent amount of games, but you still have the FCS competition, which everyone says he hasn't played football in a year. So maybe there is some rawness in Trey Lance. Maybe it is going to be a similar situation, whereas if Jimmy Garoppolo does indeed ball out and Kyle Shanahan regains his trust, then maybe Garoppolo sits for another year. I highly doubt that's the case, but I definitely think you could maybe see something happen. But it would only be if the 49ers don't think Trey Lance isn't ready and Jimmy Garoppolo plays out of his mind.
Yeah, Garoppolo would have to play to not get replaced. I think he would have to play MVP caliber football.
Oh, easily. He'd have to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah, and even then, I think even still he might still be out of there. But the clock is ticking. And then when you got a guy who is a generational talent like Trey Lance, it's just we'll see. Kyle is real happy about possibly getting him out there, and I guess we'll get to this now with the Jimmy versus Trey thing because we're already kind of talking about it. When they asked him, hey, could Trey Lance possibly start day one? Kyle didn't put a timetable on him. He was like, okay, yeah, we all know how we feel because we know what we gave up to get this guy. Whenever Trey looks ready, whenever I feel like Trey is ready to go out there, is probably when he'll get out there. And he said, if it's a competition in camp, it'll be a competition. So, he's not guaranteeing Jimmy the job. He feels comfortable with Jimmy in case Trey is not ready to go. but there is a very, very good chance that Trey Lance, in camp, and what we hear from his intellect is that he, absorbs and retains information at a high level, and if that is the case, it's a good chance that he could possibly beat Garoppolo out in camp, and it's going to be interesting development because when you have a roster that is the caliber of the 49ers, it's probably one of the best rosters in football. And then, fans are going to want this team to win. And I know there's a lot of fans who want, Jimmy Garoppolo to start because they know where this roster is at and they know the history of rookie quarterbacks. But, I don't think it's that cut and dry. Like I said, I don't like to go back to those examples because there's no context there. Well, I mean, not that there's no context, but the context there is that, most of these quarterbacks that are drafted high go to bad teams, Like most of the most talented quarterbacks go to teams that are not ready to, play football at a high level. And this team is. So, and then at the same time, that means that they don't have to rush Lance into the starting job, or not rush him to the starting job, but they don't have to. Lance would have to put the team on his back. So I'm trying to say, like they can kind of ease him into it. And obviously, we know his athletic ability. He will be able to, use that to bail him out in times where maybe there's a miscommunication, or maybe he's not sure what he's looking at, or he'll have his legs to kind of help him out there. But also, I mean, this roster. I mean, you have one of the best play callers in football with a run game that is, especially with the addition of Trey Sermon, who we'll get into in another episode. But I mean, this run game it's going to be nasty, especially with Trey Lance in there. Just the threat, because the run game is already hard enough for teams to prepare for. With you have all the motions, Debo, coming in motion, he can get the ball. Most are probably getting the ball. Ayuk coming out and in around. Think of all of that, and then also the possibility that Trey Lance can keep it. Like this it's going to make defenses think for even just a hair longer, and that could be all you need to really bust off a big play. I mean, Trey Lance is not going to have to drop back 30, 40 times. He might throw high teens, low 20s, per game. And I mean, Kyle's going to help him out. So, I mean, if it feels like Trey Lance knows enough of the playbook, which I think it's really also going to come down to, because at NDSU, he huddled up, he made line checks, he audibled. They didn't do like the little clap snap. He was actually, having a cadence and everything. Trey Lance is a lot further along than most quarterbacks at this stage. And if he is, as smart as people say he is, it's a good chance he could be ready pretty soon. And it's going to be a pretty we'll be discussing this a lot, but it's going to be an interesting battle in camp between him and Jimmy.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing, I know a lot of people talk about Trey Lance's rawness. Me too. I'm definitely a little bit guilty of this, but a lot of people are forgetting that North Dakota State ran a scheme very similar to an NFL scheme. So that is one thing in mind where you could say Trey Lance is definitely a bit more prepared than some of the other quarterbacks. And on top of that, I can't name a better quarterback situation than the San Francisco 49ers drafting a quarterback in the top 5 of that with that caliber of a team. I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. But again, I mean, I've talked about that a lot with how loaded this offense and defense is. But this was the best situation possible for a guy like Trey Lance.
Yeah.
And
all right, Matt, I think we're supposed to have OTAs. I think Shanahan mentioned in one of the pressers that Trey, because they already started working the playbook when he came in, this past few days. But I think he mentioned that Trey was going to be at OTAs. So I think they're having it in some capacity. I think there was some, little letter that came out that some of the Niners are going to opt out of the OTA. I think it's optional this time around for most players, but I think
where it was most players were going to opt out. But I would assume that a guy like Trey Lance goes.
Yeah, they're going to want to get him in.
And on top of that, Jimmy Garoppolo, we were talking about this before the pod started, has an incentive if he goes to this OTA. So
yeah, I think I could be wrong, but I think he has a workout bonus in his contract where if he shows up to OTAs, he gets a bonus of some point.
And he's in danger of being cut too. So I bet he takes that right now because it's either you can get somewhere around like the $20 million mark, a bit higher than that, somewhere around $25 million. I forget the actual number, or you can get $2 million or like $3 million or whatever it is.
All right, so Diego, I'm with you. I wanted Fields a lot too, but now that hearing Kyle talk about Trey Lance and kind of getting more into, because obviously I'm going back and watching now, like, okay, what did I miss? Why did I miss? I'm predicting, Justin Lance. I mean, Justin Fields, and I think a lot of it has to do with, like you mentioned, Sam, the pro system he ran at NDSU. Just in NFL offense is what they did. And he lined up under center and did play action plays so many times, like so much more than any other quarterback in the class. So Kyle doesn't have to, hope that they can learn how to do it. He's already seen Lance do it. And I think that plays a big role in why he likes Lance over Fields. And it's why I'm coming around to, the decision that Kyle made. And I hope that Justin Fields kills in Chicago. I hope, that he has a good career. And whenever we're not playing the Bears, I'll have some rooting interest because I was a big Justin Fields guy, but I think Lance, just the fact that just he ran the pro styles offense in NDSU and he lined up under center and he did play action. And here's a question. Here's a question from Mac. I've heard anyone ask the NDSU staff who's more ready coming out wins for Trey. Yeah, that's a good question.
That's
I mean, because people were very high on Wentz too, and they kind of had similar, I think. With Trey's coming out, I think he has a lot more likable qualities, though.
Trey Lance has the higher. I'll be honest. I didn't. I mean, 2016. That was a while ago. I was pretty young at the time, so I didn't watch much Carson Wentz NDSU film. I will say one thing that I do know is that Trey Lance has had the higher ceiling than Carson Wentz coming out of school.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like some people have said that Lance is probably the better prospect coming out than Wentz, but I think they're eerily similar because Wentz has a big time arm too, and he was, in NDSU, it's just the way they do things.
The only knock on Trey Lance is that he played less games than Carson Wentz. I believe.
It's funny because it's not his fault. It's not his fault.
Exactly.
At all.
It's COVID's fault. That's literally all it is. But also, I will say one thing that I was going to say earlier about Jimmy Garoppolo and Trey Lance being the starting job. I believe that on Rich Eisen today, Kyle Shanahan said that Jimmy Garoppolo is still the starter for this team.
Of course, he's going to say that until he's not going to say Trey's the starter. He's going to have to earn it. He's not going to sit here and say, absolutely. I won't say I don't care, what Kyle says about it, but at the same time, he's not going to throw Jimmy under the bus and be like, yeah, no, I'm hoping Trey, beats Jimmy out in camp. He's not. He's going to let it play out, But I'm sure, Kyle's going to have just a rooting interest since Trey is his guy, for Trey to show that he's good enough to start.
Yeah, man. Training camp, I don't know. It just seems like so far away. It's. I mean, there's going to be a lot of talk about that. That's going to be the next debate. Who's going to be the 49ers starting quarterback on Twitter? And then once training camp rolls around. By the way, speaking of training camp, if you're a 49ers fan, you live in the Bay Area, you haven't been to training camp, you are missing out. That is one of the best fan experiences out there, in my opinion, in all professional sports, because I've talked to players there. You can get autographs. You can see an NFL practice up close. You can interact with a ton of fans. It's one of the best experiences of football. I just want to put that out there. And now you get to see with your own eyes either the rise of Trey Lance or the downfall of Jimmy Garoppolo being a 49er. You're gonna win this history, man.
Okay, Diego Martinez feels remind me of Russell Wilson. That's why, in my opinion, top 3 quarterback in the NFL. Yeah, Russell is definitely one of the best in the NFL. And I know there were some comparisons like, hey, he kind of feels Wilson-esque, but I mean, at the same time, like we said, I mean, Lance got the best landing spot. So I mean, I think. Of quarterbacks who will likely fail, I think Lance has probably had the lowest chance to fail just because of where he's landing, and he knows that, in his interview with Keanu Martin, he was like, this is a Super Bowl roster around me. And he knows how good the roster is. So it's just, I mean, I would have loved Fields, but at the same, if you love Fields, you should love Lance too, because they're, as far as like as athletes, they are very similar, super strong arm. Some will argue that Lance's arm is stronger. I think he throws the ball more naturally than Justin Fields does for sure. And it comes out of his hand different. He's got some pop. He just makes it look easy. It just comes flying out of his hand. He's got a laser. But and then as a runner, we've seen him run a lot in college. We know he's a very good runner. We didn't see Justin Fields run that as much as Lance did. I think Lance ran for over like 1,000 yards in 2019. which is wild for a quarterback. But and I mean, just if you like Fields, you should love Lance too. And I know the competition is one of the things that people are real weary of, but at the same time, I mean, it's not like he's playing with NFL talent around him. The only other player he got drafted was Dylan Redun's, his left tackle. And Jabril Cox, I think that's his name. I think he transferred to LSU out of NJSU. So, 3 players who were from there that got drafted in this draft.
They had a right tackle who I believe was on some team's radars. I don't know if he went undrafted. He definitely went undrafted. I don't know if he signed with anyone. Or maybe that's for next year's draft. I don't know. There's a right tackle, and I just saw on some scouting reports about some right tackle with Trey Lance.
And then if you watch NDSU this year, they were nowhere near the same team without Trey Lance. Trey Lance transformed them into just an immovable object. They were as good as they were because of Trey Lance.
Absolutely.
I know we're going to get into some of the other draft picks in another episode because we're trying to spread this out because the NFL landscape is getting a little dry. There's not a lot happening between now and training camp, but and this is one of the things that I guess we'll touch on lightly here. I know we went into the draft thinking they're going to get edge and they're going to get receiver. Those 2 things we thought they were going to get. They drafted neither. I know they brought in Austin Watkins, who was a guy that a lot of people are high on as an undrafted free agent, but I think the idea is Raheem Mostert and Jeff Wilson are not under contract next year. And I think Kyle they haven't been healthy. Mostert and Wilson, they haven't ever gone the full 16 games. So Trey Sermon, I think he can be a workhorse back, and I know I'm getting into something that I plan to get into later, but Sermon, he can be a workhorse back. The receivers, just the receiver room. I mean, they've got, I forgot, Travis Benjamin's still on the team. They signed him last year. He opted out. He's going to play this year. They signed Mohamed Sanu. They feel good about Jalen Hurd. They drafted Juwan Jennings in the 7th round, who they feel good about, last year. I mean, they have a lot of guys who are going to compete for that spot. They got a lot of guys, and Kyle said it. We got some guys who can do it. I got some guys that I believe in. One of those guys are going to win the job. And I think they have some guys they really believe in. That's why they didn't draft a guy, because they felt like the room was already kind of, packed with talented players. And to be honest, looking at it now, in hindsight, I'm not too bummed they didn't get a receiver. And I know this is, I plan to talk about this later, but the question came up, so why not?
Yeah, and I might as well answer it too. I think Kyle Shanahan said this in his day 2 press conference. You really want, when you're looking at a running back, you just want a guy who can play at the NFL level. There were 2 guys on the board that they wanted that they believed could play at an NFL level. So why not take him? This is a run-heavy scheme, and that's also one of the reasons why we drafted Trey Lance. He's probably the fastest quarterback out there. So you want that run-heavy scheme. You built and you add on to that. And I think Elijah Mitchell, a very physical running back, I need to check him out a bit more. Trey Sermon's a guy who absolutely dominated at Ohio State, had some injury issues, which made him fall.
I think he had the one ACL tear, and then he had the shoulder strain in the championship.
Yeah, he had ACL tear and a shoulder strain. But still, man, I definitely think you look at this running back room, and also somebody tweeted this out: Raheem Mostert, contract year; Jeff Wilson, contract year; Wayne Gallman, contract year. Those are 3 of the running backs you already have. The only ones under contract next year are going to be Sermon, Hasty, and Elijah Mitchell. That's it. So you definitely have to bolster that running back room when you can. And we'll talk about the odd man out next podcast. I'll save that for later.
Yeah, it's going to be an odd man out. That running back room is stacked. Some people didn't like it because they feel like the running back room was already pretty solid, with Mostert, Wilson, Hasty, and everything, bringing in Gallman. But
hey, man, if you get better, you do it. It's that.
Yeah, and that's why. And Kyle said you can believe him or not, but he said they didn't plan on taking 2 running backs. They said when you get to that point in the draft, you draft guys you think can make the roster. Those are 2 guys they felt strongly about. They feel like can make the roster. So we'll see how it plays out. Someone is going to, be odd man out. And I have some thoughts on that too, with some guys who I think the running back room would end up as. But we got so many weeks and months to talk about this before training camp battles even actually start. But it is what it is. All right, back to Trey Lance. Okay, evals. I know we kind of talked about it, sparingly here and there, but I was just thinking today, listening to all the other pods out there and the other shows, and just hearing people's evaluation on Trey Lance. And then watching, what I've watched the last few days. Man, I mean, the Niners finally got a guy who can go toe to toe with the best, and I'm not saying like right away, but he has the potential to go toe to toe with the best. I mean, there is nothing on the field that he can't do. As a runner, he's super dangerous. As a thrower, there isn't a throw on the field he can't make. He's got a strong arm. He can throw it all over the place. And just can you imagine what he's going to be able to do with a play caller as creative and as dangerous and as ruthless as Kyle Shanahan? The offense is hard to stop, and Jimmy Garoppolo was, running the show. I mean, when Trey Lance, like a year or two, from now, is, leading the charge, it's going to be. I always felt like if Kyle ever got his guy, his dual threat quarterback, it was going to be like Patrick Mahomes with the Chiefs-esque, and we may get a chance to see that. It's not going to be the same because we know the Chiefs are about getting the ball downfield, and they got a bunch of blazers, and with the McCole Hardman, Tyreek Hill, and then they got your safety blanket and Travis Kelce. But just when we think of trying to stop the run, especially when as good as Trey Lance is as a runner, and then when you try to stop the run, you're stacking the box and you got to play action, and you got a guy who can just chuck his 60 yards down the field with ease. It's just going to be just imagine the 49ers offense with Trey Lance at quarterback. That's why I feel like it's going to be interesting camp battle. I know Kyle is going to want to get him out there because he knows what he can do with him. Just the threat of Trey Lance as a runner and the fact that he can make every throw is enough to make defenses. First of all, they can't stack the box too often, because if you do that, then you're opening yourself up to get beat down the field, which Lance can do to you. And then as a runner, just trying to stop the running game by itself on top of the fact that Trey Lance can keep it. I mean, it's going to be even just as a football fan, not even as a Niner fan, it's going to be one of the best offenses to watch when he gets out there.
Oh, dude, it's just going to be the best offense. It's going to be so fun. I can't even put it into words. You got Kyle Shanahan really has all his guys out there. Deebo Samuel, that's a guy that he wanted badly. Brandon Ayuk, that was his top receiver in what many people considered before this year one of the best wide receiver classes ever. You have two new running backs who are going to provide a lot to this team. Trey Sermon in particular, I think, could provide a lot. And you have a stacked offensive line across the board you have run blockers, pass blockers. You really have a guys who can just do it all. The offense is going to be one of the most fun offenses to watch. So, I mean, I'm just smiling as I speak about this. I'm so hyped about this. This is going to be a really fun, maybe not this year. There's going to be a bit that they need to get used to, but after this year, everyone on that offense is just going to be licking their chops. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, and I'm not trying to put pressure on Trey Lance to be a star from the get-go, because obviously he's not going to be a star from the get-go. There are the accuracy concerns, because there were times, and we don't know, how it is now, because it's been a year and a half since we've last seen him play. And, well, I mean, I'm not really counting the one little scrimmage game they did, because one game they're rusty and there wasn't a lot of prep for it, So it's going to take some time for him to get to where we imagine he can get to, but just imagining what he can be in this offense with Kyle calling the plays is really exciting. And I'm just really just happy, and everyone should just be happy that, first of all, it wasn't Mac, and then Kyle finally has I guess you can say a new age quarterback, a guy who's dangerous as a runner, can extend plays, and also good in the pocket. And that's one of the things I love about Lance, is that he's not a run first quarterback. He wants to pass. Most of his runs are on designed run plays. He's not scrambling a lot. There's times I've watched and he's like, to the ball too long. It's like, hey man, just take off. And he's still looking downfield. He keeps his eyes downfield a lot. And I'm sure Kyle loves that, because that's one of the reasons why he didn't want mobile guys at first, because he was scared that they're going to go, they're going to not follow through, bail out early on plays and not let things develop. But Lance can do that. Lance he'll sit there in the pocket, he'll scan the field. And even when he gets outside the pocket, his first instinct isn't to run. He keeps his eyes downfield and looks for open receivers. This offense is going to be fireworks. Lance feels like the right guy. It's always a risk anyway, no matter who you take. I mean, Fields would have been a risk. Jones would have been a risk. Anybody's a risk. But just with Kyle at the helm, with the roster around him, and with the skill set of Trey Lance, it has a very good chance of working. And I'm excited to see how this plays out.
And also, I saw a comment from the AG Fox above that he talked about RG3. And RG3 is a guy who Kyle Shanahan had for maybe one or two. I'll just talk about a healthy RG3 right now. Kyle Shanahan had a healthy RG3 for 1 year, didn't even want to develop him. He wanted Kirk Cousins, along with his dad, along with all the other coaches. And look what he did with rookie RG3 was one of the best players in football at the time. That guy was a beast. Now just imagine rookie RG3, but Kyle Shanahan wants to develop him more. He's a better passer, and he's going to have more time for this team. And hopefully no injuries. That's insane. That's going to be just so fun to watch. And
about go ahead.
Go ahead. No, go ahead. I was finished up.
Yeah. Okay. With the injuries, I know people are like, oh, I couldn't see him truck people. I'm like, listen, nah, Lance. I know you didn't slide much into this year. I don't think you slid at all. Man, I need you to, and I'm sure Kyle will say this as well, because Kyle, I know he's had enough injuries and having his guy, not be available. But I need him to start sliding and to start getting out of bounds, because I don't need him. I mean, NFL is a different beast. FCS guys, there's guys he's more athletic than, more stronger than everything. NFL, a lot of these guys are the best players of their college, and they're all in the NFL for a reason. Like these guys, different breed. They're all different breeds. So I need him to start being safe. Unless you absolutely have to have a first down or a touchdown, or it's crucial situation. I need him to really start being a little safer when he's running. Other than that, though, I'm cool with everything he does. But just seeing some of the hits he takes, he's getting gamed up on by a bunch of guys. He's getting tackled by 3 or 4 dudes. Ooh, I don't want.
And now you're in a division with guys like Aaron Donald, Bobby Wagner. Yep. You added Zaven Collins to the Cardinals. Chandler Jones is already there. J.J. Watt, Buda Baker, Jamal Adams. It's a stacked defense. I mean, the defenses across the division are stacked. You're going to have some hard hitters. And you're also in practice, they're not going to hit hard, but you still got to go up against Fred Warner, who I'll go back to training camp, he was wearing a non-contact jersey and knocked the wind out of Juszczyk where they had to stop practice for a solid 3 minutes. That's how good Fred Warner is. I mean, you do not want to get hit from Fred Warner. I'll just say that right now. That's the one guy. That is the one player in the NFL I just do not want to take a hit from is Fred Warner, because when you can hit a guy that hard, a big guy that hard in a non-contact jersey, it means that you're damn good at what you do.
Yeah. All right. I think we said about everything you want to say about Trey Lance, unless you had more you wanted to add.
That's all I had to say, man. I mean, I'm just hyped.
Yeah.
I'm living in the moment.
This isn't a temporary thing. I mean, Trey's gonna be here for a while, so we can, we'll probably, if we miss something today, we'll probably talk about it in another episode. But yeah, man. I mean, it's Trey area now. It's Trey area.
Yeah, let's go, man. I'm hyped.
I am too. It was. I got more and more excited about the pick as time went on. I was like, because obviously I was big Justin Fields guy. And I was salty I was wrong and I lost money. But as watching more Lance and seeing the interviews and seeing him talk, and then I'm just like, yeah, Trey Lance, I'm happy about the pick. Love it.
I'd rather lose money than draft Mac Jones as my quarterback. I'll leave it at that. $40,
that would have been the worst.
What's more important? $40 or a better chance at a Super Bowl, or however much money you bet. I don't know, but still.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously when it comes to ranking these quarterbacks, I mean, we can't do it now, and even for draft grades, I think draft grades are kind of useless, because we won't know until years later how these players really pan out. But I mean, it looks good. It looks good, even though we haven't seen a single snap of him yet in the NFL. I just, this is like the high point. Everyone's hyped about everybody. Everyone's going to be the best player they can possibly be until reality slaps you in the face and so, okay, this guy wasn't that good. This guy.
It's just going to be all peace and quiet for now. Unless you and I just want to start some controversy about some 49ers topic.
The 49ers should absolutely cut somebody.
Let's just maybe we should just do a whole stream of why we should cut Nick Bosa or something.
Trade Robbie Gold.
Trade Robbie Gold.
I'm just playing. I don't believe that.
I know. No, you know what the controversial take should be? Cut Tabor Pepper. Actually, no, that's kind of
Tabor. If you're listening,
we love you, Tabor. I'm just trying to get the fans riled up because who doesn't love Tabor Pepper, man?
You know what? Actually, who wins the backup job? The backup job. Nate Sutfield or Josh Rosen? That could be a good conversation.
That's a good one. Spark that up. Who's RB1? We can talk about that next stream.
Yeah, that will be a topic next stream.
That will definitely be a topic next stream. But
just a little. I think Sturman could be the workhorse back, but we'll discuss that later.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's all from us. Dry season now. It's gonna be real dry as far as storylines and everything is.
May, June, July. We just gotta get some one big move.
We got the schedule coming up on the 12th, and that's it. Really.
That's on the 12th. I thought that was this week.
No, it's on the 12th. We got a week, man.
That's a wild, man. They used to do that in mid-April, and now we're here.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think. I have to, as the host, I have to think of something up for shows. But we're not there yet.
It's tough, man. Dry season time. Paul's right. Time to chill.
Hey, man, but listen, we gotta be here for y'all though. So we gotta think of some stuff.
We can just talk about Niners therapy. Talk about our 49er experiences. What made us start podcasting? There's a lot of good ideas you can do out there.
I'll probably reach out to people and get some guests on to discuss some fun stuff. Let's try to have some fun with it until we get back to the serious stuff, which will be training camp.
But I had a good summer last year with uploading stuff. Worked out well.
The off season is over at this point. I know they're just OTAs, and that's technically off season training activities. But the off season's over. Player additions are. We got. Oh, I forgot. We have the second wave of free agency.
There's a lot of guys. There's a lot of guys still out there.
Richard Sherman is still out there.
We do. I will say we do have 90 spots. I think we have 94 spots filled right now. So,
unless they want to cut somebody and bring someone else in, we'll see.
They would probably cut. Yeah, they have to cut a few people. So,
yeah,
we'll see. But maybe
that's all we got. Though
controversial.
Next week we'll get into the rest of the draft class. Should Sherman? I know you mean Sherman come back. If he does, I'm not. If he does or doesn't, I'm not really.
It's not really going to impact this team. I think Verrett is cornerback 1 going into the year, no matter if it's Richard Sherman back on this team.
Yeah, we'll see. And then we'll have to, we'll discuss it later. We gotta save stuff at this point. We can't talk about everything now. we gotta kind of
killing it on the comments today. I will say that. So shout out to you guys.
All right. End credit stuff. All right. So if you're listening on Apple Podcasts, wherever podcast area you're listening to, make sure you subscribe. Is that a thing you can do there? I don't know. Rate, review.
Follow. You can follow the podcast on Spotify.
Yeah, follow, subscribe, rate, review with everything. Rate and review helps us out, helps you guys out. Does it? I think it does. Maybe. Makes you feel good. That's how it helps you out.
Absolutely.
Makes you feel good. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on Sam's channel, subscribe. If you're watching on my channel, subscribe.
We gotta get more viewers on your channel, man. It seems all these comments are coming from my channel, and I appreciate you guys. But let's get Kobe. Let's get Kobe to 50 subs, man. Let's do it. Why not? Let's give Kobe some love.
So just update on the Talkin Niners channel. It will not be the Talkin Niners channel for much longer. I changed the name, but it hasn't updated yet. It will be the Bay Kobe channel. So we'll have both channels. So it'll be different content on either channel. So you can subscribe to both. That's what I'm saying. It's not gonna be the same stuff.
And then you can watch both streams. Why not? Mute one, listen to the other. It's the best idea. Support us both. Just supporting the pod. Because on StreamYard, it doesn't say where the views are coming from, I believe, on the top right corner. So it'll, instead of saying 2 views, it'll say 3 views if you're watching both. And that makes us feel better. So it does.
But yeah. Subscribe.
You want more viewers.
Subscribe wherever you're watching, listening, all that good stuff. Rate, review, helps us out, helps you guys out. And we will be back here next week. Don't know the day yet, but next week sometime to discuss the rest of the draft class. Because I think the Niners had a good draft class. Even though I don't think they took any of the players I wanted, but it's fine. It's fine. And we'll get into it later. One last question here. I don't want to miss you. If the Niners were to go after Rodgers, who would you be willing to trade?
I don't think we're going to go after Rodgers. After drafting Trey Lance, I think that's the plan.
I mean, it's a hypothetical, so he knows.
Okay, if it's
it wouldn't
hypothetical,
happen.
it would have to be. I don't even know if you trade Trey Lance because they don't even want a quarterback. You would probably trade.
They have Jordan Love, so
I would have to assume Fred Warner's in that deal because they need linebacker help. They didn't really address that in the draft. Warner and
first of all, I'm not. I mean, we might have to go into the. Is there like a trade simulator? Even then, I think the asking price would be ridiculous because Aaron Rodgers, man. I just do picks. I try to keep players out of it. Like, listen, first of all, if we're doing hypothetical, we're at least from being realistic from this standpoint, Rodgers doesn't want to be there anyway. So, like, he wants out. So I think that kind of brings the price down a little bit because, like, they're either he retires or they take what they can get. So, that's tough. I'm thinking picks, just some picks, maybe a first rounder for a year or two, and maybe like a third or something like that. Would the deal that we traded to get Trey, would that work for Rodgers?
That would probably work for Rodgers, yeah. Except, are you allowed to trade picks in 2024 and 2025 at this point?
I feel like, I mean, I know in Madden you can't, but I think in terms of like real life, I think it doesn't matter how far you can. I mean, I know in the NBA you can trade picks from like 2028. It's like,
I know it's
like
crazy.
7 years down the road. Like, and first of all, who wants that pick? Like, it's like 7. We don't know. I might even be here in 7 years.
I don't know. Well, I mean, we'll have to see, but I don't know how many picks have ever been traded further in the future in the NFL. I don't know what that record is, but
I feel like
it would be something along the Trey Lance lines, maybe more.
But I mean,
overall, if we're being realistic, I think we're sticking with Trey Lance.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, there's no way they're trading for him now. But hypothetically, I think it would take some more picks. But the Niners don't have picks now. They have to get rid of the 2023, 2024, and 2024,
2022, 2023. So that's
those are already gone. So it'd be 24, 25 first round.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, because they're already missing. It just doesn't happen. It doesn't happen. I can't see how it happens. Unless you give up Bosa or Warner. I don't want to do that. I already got Trey.
Bingo.
Anyway, I'm Kobe. That's Sam. We're out of here. Thanks for listening. As always, go Niners.
See ya.